Program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I am Sara Higdon, and this is Transform to Freedom. It's been a couple weeks. I gotta tell you, last week was pretty fun. So I was in Memphis. I left on Tuesday, so we didn't have the show on Monday night because I left for Memphis on Tuesday. Freedom Fest. You can go and you can see all the pictures and everything like that. I'm the worst actually at taking pictures at these things because I meet so many people. And I love when people come up and take pictures with me. But I don't have any of the pictures on my phone. So if you took a picture with me at Freedom Fest, post them and tag me in them. Because yeah, I don't really like, even when I meet, more famous people, I'm like, I just want to have a conversation, not really, bug them with pictures. But then I also realize I like when people ask me to take a picture with them. So I don't know. But that was fun. If you haven't seen some of the stuff, go check it out. Freedom Fest is a good time. Got to meet some great people. Went to a VIP event on my days are all mixed up. It was maybe Thursday, maybe even Friday. I think it was Friday with RFK. That was interesting. It was at Graceland at the Motor Museum there. It was interesting. That's all I'm going to really say about that. But yeah, really, really great time. Got to see some of my good friends. And the way I explain Freedom Fest for anybody, for a lot of people in my field and what we do, like especially in the liberty movement in general, Freedom Fest is kind of I was calling it a family reunion because this is, the one time a year that we all do kind of get together. And you can actually go and already buy your tickets for next year's event, which is going to be in Vegas again. So it's going to be great. Memphis was interesting. Good food. I had some great conversations with some of the locals. Good food. Beale Street was I was kind of calling it a dive bar version of Broadway in Nashville. I think that's the best way to describe it. But and then just a little bit more too. I don't know if you saw my post today. So my back is actually killing me right now. So if you see me wincing a little bit today, if I move around, my back is killing me. I was at the gym doing my thing, and if you don't know and you don't go follow me, I'm looking at putting some stuff behind a paywall, possibly on my Substack, or I'm waiting for Elon to just give you my Twitter subscriptions and we'll put everything there. But track the progress because I am going out and I'm attempting to break the female squat record, the raw female squat record. And in my age and weight category. And so I have to, the record I think is set at 285. And the reason I'm doing this is I can't go without this because I actually had, it's really great when people know your stances on things and they're like, wait, I thought you were against, males competing in female sports. I'm like, well, I am. And then they asked me about this. And I said, well, I posted on Instagram and I forgot that I'd never explained it on Instagram that I'm doing this specifically to show that males, no matter how long after you've transitioned, don't belong in female sports. And so I'm doing it to make a point. But yeah, so today I actually lifted 290. So the record is 285. I lifted 295 off the rack just to see how it feels. And yeah, it was heavy. it's heavy, but I can feel myself getting stronger every single day, and it's good because I mean I did what I do. I was actually doing I was squatting two 225 today. Was it 245? So actually 45 times 5, yeah, 225, and I did that a few times, and it was really good. Um I was actually able to go down a little bit further, get 3 reps out of it, but it was only maybe still like maybe a foot squat, but still that's just my progress has been great so far, and that's what we're going to continue to move on. I'm giving myself a full year to do it. Um, yeah, it's called trolling. I am definitely trolling the left. I'm going to own the libs on this one. Um, but yeah, but I'm also realizing, and I realized this in Memphis too. Like I'm not in my 20s anymore. So when you're not in your 20s, my body is going to take some time to healing. Also, I have a bad back. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, so I jumped out of airplanes a little bit, and that chute is heavy enough to compress your back, um, the harness and everything. And I also was in the 101st Airborne Division, so I was so used to road marching with weight on my back, and so my knees, my back. I pulled my hamstring before, and so like everything like that all starts to add up when you're doing, taking on a new challenge like this. And so um, I'm taking it slower than I probably could because I would push myself almost every day to where I could barely walk. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to risk injury in a lot of this, and so yeah, I'm closer to 40 than I am to 30. So yeah. I know, and that's why I'm doing it now. But actually, the thing is once you hit 40, the record drops, I believe. So yeah, but the record's 285, and I'm quite a ways off. But I'm giving myself a year to do it, so it's gonna be fun. Also, got a couple stories that I just want to run down. Not gonna be, not actually, I don't even think, yeah, this first one's not actually on the docket for today, but I did want to highlight this because this happened last week, and some of these happened last week. So this one is so this is a state representative in Georgia, Misha Maynor, and actually she left the Democrat Party last week on July 11th. She represents a blue district in the city of Atlanta. So this was not a political decision. So she was the only Democrat that voted against school choice, right? So she got a lot of heat from Democrats for voting or voting for school choice. So she's in favor of school choice with the Republicans, and so she got a lot of heat for this here in my home state of Georgia, not far from me, because she's actually she represents the the Midtown area of Atlanta, which Midtown is pretty steadily blue. I mean, Midtown is home of what we call the Gayborhood. It's it's a very, I always call Atlanta a very libertarian city for these reasons, but um yeah, it was really interesting. And she's been taking a lot of heat for it. So I think anytime we see people leaving, breaking away from, either one, I mean, when they break away and they move to the right on issues and they see the hate that, everybody that leaves the cult gets, we need to support them. Just like I did back a few months ago when we had one Democrat vote to ban, gender affirming care, cross-sex hormones, and surgery for minors in Texas. We had one Democrat vote for that, and I think anytime that somebody does that, we need to show them grace because they're opening their eyes. And we're seeing this happen a lot. We saw it again. We talked about it 2 weeks ago with Anna Kasparian, um, and we're seeing it more and more with people when they actually see what's going on. They're opening up their eyes and they're moving forward. So I look forward, and I actually said this in a post, I look forward to possibly getting with Representative Maynard and seeing what we can do to move stuff forward here. Maybe she becomes more of a libertarian-minded person. We'll see. But she's not voting with, in lockstep with the Democrats anymore, and that's good. And we'll see what happens in her next term if she's able to hold that position, in Midtown. So that'll be good. But yes. Next on the docket, we have. All right. The other thing that I said it wasn't actually on my list is why isn't it's not coming up? Okay, let me see. Oh, don't freeze on me. Come on. Oh no. Did my camera just turn off on me too? Ah. What's going on?
Hard pivot to a piece of tech that I made.
Yeah, we're having technical difficulties. My video all went out, but I guess you guys can actually hear me. So, and I kind of get actually why they might be censoring me because of what I was getting ready to show everybody. So Come on. Yeah, my video's frozen, but and everything's, like I said, it's kind of shutting down on me. But actually, so let's just keep I'm gonna keep seeing if this will actually come up. So I was going to let everybody know to go see Sound of Freedom if you haven't seen it. Because it's I went and saw it last Sunday, maybe, and it was just crushing it. And there's a reason. There is definitely a reason for that, why it's been doing it. Because I cried at the end of it because it was so powerful. It made me feel like I'm not doing enough being out here doing stuff. So I would say everybody needs to go watch it. And I think there's a lot of reasons why they're against it. I don't necessarily know if it's because of the yeah, you cried through most of it. I mean, it was a very good story. It was a very well done story. I In reality, I don't know. I think that some of it has to do with Angel Studios and how it was funded, and like, look, I get actually why Disney would not release this movie, and it has everything to do with Disney's brand is mostly for children. It's not because I don't not going to go down that conspiratorial route to say that everything was because Disney, and their agenda or anything like that. I think it starts to make sense as to why Disney would not want to promote this movie or push this movie or even release this movie, and that's why they end up selling the rights to Angel Studio. But it it is really it's a great film. If you haven't seen it, go see it. I mean, it was projected to earn over 40 million in its opening week, and this movie only cost, you know, 13, I think it was 13 million to actually make. And then there was the cost. It cost 5 million. They raised $5 million for advertising, and they usually say, I think what it costs to make it usually costs between 2.3 and 2.5 million to or it's like 2.5% or times to actually um to actually uh that's how much it costs for the actual film to even break even. Yeah, so Courtney, I see you said, why would they have bought the rights in the first place? Yeah, so it was originally supposed to be released by 20th Century Fox, and then Disney bought 20th Century Fox, and that's the whole thing there, right? So that's why. God, I don't know why my computer wants to do this on me right now. Okay, I think what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to shut my computer down possibly because this is not working. I'm gonna leave the stream up real quick. Let me see if it works. Sorry. I'm back. I am back. I am so sorry. Thank you all for sticking around. Wow. Yeah, that's like the worst thing that can happen to you when you're doing something like this. So, um yeah. Whew. But yeah, so I'm going to have to get kind of resituated here. So, I was talking about Sound of Freedom. Go see it if you haven't seen it. But now what I want to do, let's show this. All right, we'll move on. Go see Sound of Freedom. It was a great movie. I loved it. And I just hope that they don't kick me off for sharing that again. So I'm going to share my screen again. All right, here we go. All right. Donald Trump explains how he's going to end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. In an interview with it was actually with Fox Business this weekend. Now, if you saw this, look, Trump's been saying he could end this war in 24 hours since February, and this was the first time he actually explained how he would do that. Now, will it work? I don't know, but it, I this is something I give Trump a lot of credit for because he actually wants to end this engagement. He literally said before on the CNN interview he wants to stop he wants people to stop dying. It's pretty, it's a pretty moral cause, and I think Ukraine, whether you're for one side or the other or no sides. I mean, I'm at the point with any foreign conflict where I don't think the US should be involved in any of these conflicts. But this makes a lot of sense what he says, as well as how he would handle this. And it's really interesting. And when you look at the way that people have been presenting this, right? So Trump supporters are saying, some people are saying Trump said he would. I'll play the clip and then I'll react to it. I'll tell you what people are saying.
You said you could end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yes, I
How
could.
would you do that?
I know Zelensky very well. I felt he was very honorable because when they asked him about the perfect phone call that I made, he said it was indeed he said it was. He didn't even know what they were talking about. He could have grandstanded, oh, I felt threatened.
Well, that's not going to be enough for Putin to stop bombing Ukraine.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I know Zelensky very well and I know Putin very well, even better. And I had a good relationship, very good with both of them. I would tell Zelensky, no more. You got to make a deal. I would tell Putin, if you don't make a deal, we're going to give them a lot. We're going to give them more than they ever got if we have to. I will have the deal done in 1 day. 1 day.
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to go onto national radio to be like, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to tell one side this and one side that. And when you look at, depending on what, who you're voting for and everything like that, some people are saying, some people are using it to say Trump called Zelensky very honorable, and I'm trying to use that as a, something. Yeah. So you're right. Magnificent Devil. He says he's very honorable because he said my perfect phone call was a perfect phone call. Yeah. So if you don't know what he's talking about there, so Trump, it was kind of funny, right? Because Trump was impeached, I believe, right? He was impeached for threatening Zelensky with, that he wouldn't provide military aid to Ukraine unless they investigated the Hunter Biden Burisma scandal. And that was seen as going after, political opponents and all this stuff. But he's saying he didn't threaten him, and he's saying Zelensky said the same thing. So that's what he's referring to there. Now, but if you are, some people are saying, if you're an anti-war person, there's some people that are, or you're a DeSantis person, or you're, you're trying to harm Trump's campaign. I've seen people being like, he said Zelensky's he's an honorable man, and then he also said that he would, give Ukraine all the weapons, right? Which he did. But he also said that if Zelensky does not come to the negotiating table, then he would stop funding Ukraine. So he's literally saying, okay, Zelensky, if you don't come to the table, the negotiating table, then I'm gonna, if you don't come to the negotiating table, if you're not willing to negotiate, U.S. funds dry up. You don't get any more support. Now, Putin, if you don't come to the table, we will support them 100%. So basically, it's like, whichever side doesn't come to the table, we're gonna just, we're gonna pull our support from that side. So it makes, it makes a lot of sense to be like, hey, if you're not willing to negotiate, and if you don't come to a deal, then we're going to be against you. And when we're against you fully, not whatever this, funding of a proxy war is, then you're not going to like it. It's kind of a fire and fury strategy. I'm an anti-war. I'm very much anti-war. I'm an anti-war veteran. And so I think anytime that you can get to diplomacy, but right now, our funding of Ukraine is actually, it's stifling debate. Last week, the Biden administration decided that they were going to send cluster munitions. There are a lot of countries around the world in NATO. I think it was 100 countries that are part of this pact to not ever use cluster munitions again, not even possess them. And yet we are going to give them to Ukraine because, and we're not part of that pact, but cluster munitions, they have a high dud rate. So when they hit the ground, they ended up harming civilians for years and years to come. And so this humanitarian crisis that comes with using cluster munitions is about to take place because they won't come to the negotiating table. It's horrible. So you say, I worry about Putin calling his bluff. Can you imagine how horrible that would be? You know, it would be bad. Yes. It would be World War III. At the same time, I don't think he would. I think that I don't think it's a bluff either. So I think he would actually do that. But it's an interesting strategy. I think that we would, yeah, I would tell Putin, if you don't make a deal, you do worry about nuclear conflict. But I mean, I don't think that this would have even happened had Trump been in charge. I think that's what a lot of people feel, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't have an AK-47, but I can see why you would. Now, actually, it's probably a lot cheaper, right? So yeah, I like that. But okay, so we're kind of moving through things here. That was the next thing. What was next on my? See, this is what I don't like. Oh, don't drink the drinking water. Don't drink the water. Okay. It's the title of the stream this week was "Don't Drink the Water" because let's see. The what's the organization? It's not the FDA. It's the U.S. Geological Survey found that over 45% of drinking water has what are called PFAS. They're a harmful substance that is in a lot of different substances or a lot of different surfaces, mostly like anti-stick stuff. Because and so they have a lot, they're very harmful substances. So they're made into a ton of different products, right? So the nonstick pans, that's what they use, are these PFAS, and then the fire extinguisher foam, any packaging product. So you go to McDonald's, and I don't know if McDonald's, for example, but that's not a good example. Go to a fast food chain and they use the non-stick like grease, like the stuff that like catches the grease and doesn't absorb the grease, and it's like non-stick, and that's what this stuff is. So like a pizza shop, that their pizza sits on this like piece of paper, well, that's like what this stuff's made of, and they're called forever chemicals because they take a very, 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 very long time to break down. They get into the water system, they get into your bloodstream, and they can cause loads of issues. So they studied 716 different locations across the country and found that about 75% of tap water in urban areas and 25% in rural areas had PFAS. Now, that's not even the overall number. That's a low number, because there are over 12,000 types of PFAS chemicals, and only 32 of them can be tested. So there is a lot of these chemicals out there. Now, what you said, get out of the cities, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Filter your water. Now, I've been on Timcast a couple times, and he hammers on this stuff, right? So he talks about the plastics all the time, and that's what this is. So this is kind of validating what he's talking about with the plastics. So when you talk about like the increased rates of gender dysphoria, yes, I think there's a social contagion aspect to this, but also the increased number of plastics and number of chemicals that are in our drinking waters and stuff like that are changing our body chemicals over the last, couple decades as these have become more prevalent. And like I said, the EPA say most people in the United States have been exposed to PFAS, which leads to a variety of health complications. These health complications include a decrease in fertility, developmental effects in children. Remember what we talk about when it comes to like rapid onset gender dysphoria and the social contagion aspect. There's a high propensity for the person to be autistic. And so this could be, I'm speculating, okay? This is not me saying that's exactly what this is, but I'm saying that there is a high propensity of children on the autism spectrum to fall into a category to where they end up transitioning. And then there is and many of them end up like there's a high correlation between transitioners and that have autism and those with autism. So again, that makes sense. If we're talking about like a chemical that's in somebody's bloodstream and it's being passed onto their child, that could be cause for concern of developmental effects in children, and that could be one of the leading reasons as to why we see so many people leading down this path. But we also know that there could be some of these effects that actually cause gender dysphoria in people as well. And this is over the course of decades. This is not something that's new. Like this study took place. Let me see. This study took place. This is not like a new a study that took like a year to do. Like they did this study years ago, and I can't remember what it was. But it was over the course of quite a few years. But yeah, so developmental effects in children. It's a huge issue. Like that's why water, like glass water bottles and filtering your water is important. Using again, apparently even like aluminum cans like this for water, apparently they also are lined with plastic. And so it's amazing. And even, I don't know, you have to check even with the Britas to see. But yeah, Patty P, you're absolutely correct. It is outrageous how much we are poisoned. Like everything is poisoning us. I mean, because then there's an increased risk of cancer, an increased risk in cholesterol levels, and possible issues with body's natural hormones. Think about everything that I just said. If a hormone level is what has been kind of determined to cause issues in utero that have led to, somebody having gender dysphoria as a young child, or being homosexual as a young, being homosexual and you're born that way, that hormone could be introduced in utero. But even still, we see hormones are a huge deal when it comes to everything that happens, when it comes to all sorts of things. It's the same reason why we talk about like birth control and stuff like that, for example, because it's increasing hormones. And guess what? They know that birth control can also cause suicidality in young females. And so when you look at like messing with hormones is not really a good idea. And I get the irony of me saying this as a trans person who has completely altered my hormone levels. it just doesn't seem. I mean, you don't want it if you don't need it, right? So I was able to make a conscious choice as to the hormones and changing my hormone levels. That's not the case when you're just getting, your hormones are artificially changed because of, chemicals that are in your drinking water. It's not okay. And then we talk about, like, look at cholesterol levels. Well, I wonder really though with cholesterol levels, because like I said, maybe you're exposed to PFAS because, well, you're eating too much fast food. I don't know. But you think about this and it's like, if you have higher cholesterol levels or you have some of these increased risk, if you have increased differences in hormone levels, like, is this why they are now pushing like the body positivity movement that we're seeing? That doesn't, maybe, you know, like, is it harder for people to maintain a natural healthy weight? I don't get it. So yeah, do not drink the water, because the water is, we should have clean drinking water. And actually, um, in the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed back in February, they included $2 billion to help fight and promote access to clean drinking water. So there's stuff that they're not even really telling us out there, right? So this is something that should have been front page news. I didn't see this really being talked about anywhere, like, were we at the post millennial the only ones covering this? I don't know. Like, it's interesting, but yeah, it should be something that everybody should go look into and see what's actually going on there. But yeah, we need to start looking at alternatives to these quote unquote forever chemicals that are seeping into our drinking water. And it's not even just, and it's like, when I talk about like nonstick pans, they say, like, as a nonstick pan gets dirty or it gets old and it scrapes, like, that chemical comes off and it scrapes and then it goes into, the landfill, and then the landfill seeps into the drinking water, and then the drinking water seeps into your tap water, or the water system, and then into the tap water, and causes a lot of issues. And yeah, so it's, even if you're not in a city, and you're in rural areas, it could lead to stuff. So we were all worried about Flint, and I grew up in Flint. I grew up with well water outside of Flint, but this seems like it should be just as big of a scandal as, the lead in Flint water. But why is it not? I don't know. Like I said, 12,000 types of PFASs, and only 32 of them can be actually checked. So when you hear somebody like Alex Jones say, the chemicals that turn the frogs gay, he's, I don't know. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube. I understand that Alex Jones may have been right, but I don't mean it. So yeah, that's why I said do not drink the drinking water. Now, let's see what we got. Okay, here we go. Now, I just have to say thank you again for bearing with me, because I had all my tabs open like I do every week, and obviously they all got shut down. So, moving on to, let me see. Yeah. Let's talk about Kamala Harris for a second, right? Speaking of population control, see what I did there? So maybe that's why we shouldn't drink the water, is because, well, let me just play this clip for you.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Was it a Freudian slip? I don't know why she would want to reduce the population, but this has kind of been something that we've been called conspiracy theorists about for a little while. As to why we would be sterilizing children, why we would be, why they would be pushing for abortion, why they would be pushing for all these other things. Apparently, she meant pollution. She wants to reduce pollution, but population size. I don't know. It seems like it was just a Freudian slip, and Thomas Massey said, "Are you the population she wants to reduce?" And that's true. Like, what is the population that she wants to reduce? And again, push this and co-opt this with the PFAS story that we just talked about, and you start to see, like, well, what is that? I mean, how are they wanting to reduce the population or the pollution? Are we going to reduce the pollution of the PFAS in the drinking water? Because they don't talk about that, and it's not really a national news story. So I'm just saying, I just want to say, let me see. So here's another clip from the good old vice president from July 12th. I mean, she had a great week. If you watched Kamala Harris last week, she had a great week.
And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
Yeah, so they want to put you in the machine, right? So no, yeah, actually, wait, wrong one. Yes, they are talking a lot about climate change when they're talking about this stuff, because the population is dealing with climate change, but I don't take anybody who worries that much about climate change too seriously until they start talking about nuclear energy and they start talking about replacing plastic. Again, we're talking about plastics, regular oil-based plastic with hemp plastic, because hemp plastic is actually stronger than oil-based plastic, yet it's better for the environment. And get this, because it's made from hemp, the amount of oxygen caused by the hemp, the plants that it costs to make it, it's actually carbon neutral. So yeah, hemp plastics are carbon neutral to make. Imagine that. And they don't talk about hemp plastic because the byproduct is marijuana, is cannabis. And so you can't do that, right? So yeah, the machine is learning. The machine is learning. Yeah, I'm with you too. I won't really take them too seriously until they stop buying beachfront property. And Courtney, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate that as well. I love the work that you're doing. So working with Shannon Bray in North Carolina, I'll give the shout out for you there as well. So thank you. But yeah, so that's what I mean is they remove CO2. So they take the CO2 and convert it into oxygen. So basically that's why it's carbon neutral, because it ends up, the amount of like pollution that goes into the air from them making the plastic through machinery and all that stuff, it's all offset by the plants taking the oxygen or taking the CO2 and turning it into oxygen. It's all offset. And so if you really are worried, and I mean, I'm not a environmental activist, but I do worry. I do try to be as clean as possible because it's more beneficial. As we said again with the PFAS in the last story, we need to, you know, be better about this stuff. And yeah, Chelsea, you are absolutely right. Hemp/cannabis plants are seriously amazing things. They make, not only do they make plastic and clothes, and they also make medicine. So I'm all for them being, they should be everywhere. And that's why they're working, like even here in Georgia, they're working to figure out how to do like hemp farming and stuff like that, because it's a major industry, but right now everything's running on oil. Let me see. So, but like I said, that was not the only slip up that Vice President Harris had this week. So let me see. What I will say, let's see. Here we go. Now I can't actually. All right, let's see. Share this. All right. One more from our
Well, I
great
think
Vice President.
culture it is a reflection of our moment and our time, right? And present culture is the way we express how we're feeling about the moment. And we should always find times to express how we feel about the moment that is a reflection of joy, because it comes in the morning.
What does that mean?
We have to find ways to also express the way we feel about the moment in terms of just having language and a connection to how people are experiencing life. And I think about it in that way too. Well, I think
What does she mean that it comes in the morning? I mean, this is typical Kamala Harris stuff though too. I actually don't think I can play it. Because I made this little reel on my phone. And if you realize it's streaming on the right hand side, it's the we'll see if I get copyrighted for this. We'll see.
express how we're feeling about the moment. And we should always find times to express how we feel about the moment that is a reflection of joy.
All right, that's all I'm gonna play. No, it's the Veep soundtrack, because it is. I mean, she is. When art imitates reality, the TV show Veep was just a little bit ahead of its time, because oh my gosh, I just saw it. That's good. I just saw this. I too like to come. Friends on Twitter, I'm telling you. But let me tell you, folks, I think we know whose cocaine it was. So this actually brings me to my next story. Apparently, the Secret Service actually knows who brought cocaine into the White House, despite their claims to the contrary. Now, they dispute this, so I'm not going to say this is a fact. They do actually dispute this, but Soldier of Fortune magazine reported that a source told it that the Secret Service must have known who handled the bag since they have known who handled the bag since last week, but the publication are withholding the name until they can get an actual confirmation for it, which, when Breitbart went to them, they said the FBI is the one who handled this case. They said they had, independent from the Secret Service, tested the packaging for cocaine. There were no discernible fingerprints or DNA found on the bag. I don't know how. Actually, do I have this clip? I do. So this is Tim Burchett. he's a I don't want to get his title wrong. But he left a meeting where they said talked about this too. So I'll play this real quick.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett just left the most ridiculous meeting of all time with the Secret Service over the cocaine that was found in the White House. So it turns out they don't know who did it. The investigation's going to be over at the end of the week, and they're not going to find out who did it. And that's basically it. Another cover up. You know, it's the most secure building in the entire world. You can't go in there. They have facial identification. You got to give your social security number. Nobody, even the press, nobody goes in there without them knowing. This is a bad look on the Secret Service and a horrible look on this White House. So,
what if it wasn't cocaine? Like, think about this. What if it wasn't cocaine and that powdery substance was actually anthrax? You know, would they be so nonchalant about telling us who brought it into the White House? No, they would know exactly who did it. They would know, they would be able to tell us exactly who it was tomorrow. So, I mean, Tim's absolutely right. Like, it's the most secure building in the world. I've been in the White House, but way back in like it's 2010. Yeah, you have to get prior clearance before you can do anything. And I had a security clearance with the Army at the time, so it was a little bit easier to get us access. But just to do the tour of the White House, you know, they know exactly who's coming in there, and there's cameras everywhere, so they know what it was. Though, I mean, like somebody like, and the White House has been trying to play a little bit of a blame game, right? So they found it just after the president, the first lady, Hunter Biden, all went to Martha's Vineyard for the vacation. There's been videos circulating with Hunter Biden that we're not very, very good. Don't know what's actually going on there, but Jill looks pissed. And so there's that type of, there's a lot of speculation, but I mean, Ted Cruz actually said he didn't think it was Hunter Biden, but there was one point where they were like, it was actually found over in this area of the West Wing near this entrance where only, the vice president parks. And so they were kind of like pushing it off on possibly Kamala Harris, which I don't know. With our last clip, it's kind of funny and it might make a little bit of sense, I don't know who else it would be. Like I said, honestly, I'm not going to even say that on YouTube. I can't say that on YouTube. I would probably get banned from YouTube. But I mean, honestly, it could be what they use to keep somebody else awake, and they just don't want people to know because it was found not on their person. Just saying. You think she's on downers? I don't know. I mean, I think obviously, Hunter Biden was literally just there, and it would make most sense that it's his. But there was also another report where they were like trying to pass it along to like one of Kamala Harris's family members who has a cocaine addiction or something like that. It's like, wait a second. So you have the vice president who has a family member who has a cocaine addiction. Then you have the president whose son is at the White House all the time with a crack addiction. And it's like, these are the people that should be leading our country, right? Because they can't even lead, raise their their family. I don't know. It doesn't make sense, right? But it is what it is. I had one more story. Oh my gosh. Actually, I want to play this for you real quick because this person is right, and this is hilarious. I don't know if I can play this whole thing. Actually, I will. I don't care. If you guys don't mind, we're gonna go over tonight because of the technical difficulties that we had. But if you have not seen this Babylon Bee skit, it's hilarious. I gotta play it. I saw it.
Hi, I'm Oliver Bartholomew, and I'm 16 and a half years old, and I'm the speechwriter for Kamala Harris. My mommy and daddy say if you find a job you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. Morning, Frank.
Yeah, hey, Oliver.
And my parents were right. Ever since I was little, I liked words. Writing words is fun, so I made writing words my job. Every politics person has a writer, like me, to make good words for them to say.
Space is exciting. Space, it affects us all. And it connects us all.
I got that idea when I was thinking about space and how big it is. Man, it's big. It's not all fun, though. Sometimes I have to write about bad stuff, like war.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically that's wrong.
It's cool to see the words I've typed good actually get set on TV. It's fun. I like it. Once I thought it would be neat if Kamala wore a blue suit and told people she was wearing it. Because I like blue.
I'm a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
It's cool because the suit's blue. And it's the color of the sky. Where do I get my ideas? From all over. One time, I was on the school bus and I thought it would be neat if Kamala talked about the school bus. And who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right?
Who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right? Can you raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus, right?
I can't take all the credit, though. Me and Mr. Kamala are a team.
You know, like relay racing? You know, you race and someone passes the baton and then, right?
But she kind of is crazy or something. And she kind of scares me. And you can't fake that kind of influence.
Remember Venn diagrams, those three circles, right? And then let's just see where they overlap. I did inhale. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
You're either born with it or you're either not.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
It's quitting time. I need to get home in time for blue. See you tomorrow, Frank.
See you later, Oliver.
That time is every day.
Phil Noof here. I'm a famous...
Oh, yes. I'm glad y'all like that because, I mean, where would we be without the Babylon Bee? I don't know. I really don't. I actually do have a story, though. Last one, and we're going to talk. So there is a surgeon who in a podcast last year actually works for what is that, OHSU, which is the Oregon Health and Science University. They are using robotics to create do genital surgeries for trans people. And I've heard about this a long time ago too, because I know robotics is kind of taking off in all surgeries, right? But this doctor, actually, this video is now deleted because Dr. Blair Peters, who was actually brought in by Nike during it became more popular because they were brought in by Nike during their like their woke pride campaign to talk about like these types of things. But in this video, he actually talks kind of about, like, he literally says, we are still learning and figuring out what works. And this was when talking about children. This was talking about children, and then like some of the genital surgeries, and talking about like puberty blockers and figuring out what actually works to satisfy that. Somebody please tell me how this is not an experiment. I've literally had doctors tell me that I was being, doctors in the legislature, I will say, Republican doctors, literally tell me that I was being too harsh for calling that, for saying that we are experimenting on children in these regards. And they said, I think you're being a little bit harsh for that, right? I'm like, well, what do you call it? We don't have the data. The WPATH guidance says we don't actually know. You know, puberty blockers be prescribed off-label. And so instead of waiting until we actually do the test to see if they are viable, we are just doing a mass experiment on all the kids so that they think that puberty blockers and all that. So they don't actually really know. And this was a pretty big admission from this doctor as well. We're just trying to figure it out, saying it's still an experiment. So actually, Ashley Sinclair, who actually works for the Babylon Bee, and is I met Ashley when I was up on Timcast last time, as well. Great person, love her to death. So from the time I met her, but so she put this up there talking about this too, and this was kind of a good clip of what this I mean, it's an hour-long podcast, but this was a good clip of what was said during it.
So 80% or so of my practice is gender affirming surgery. So I do facial, chest surgery, and genital surgery. But the majority of my practice and sort of where my passion lies is really genital surgery cases. So I do a lot of vaginoplasty and a lot of phalloplasty. I would just say they're expanding in either direction. So yeah, a lot of adolescents presenting for surgical intervention, but also a lot of people that are like in their 70s sometimes coming in for genital surgery, and then everything in between. But the adolescents for sure present some unique challenges. Obviously, there's great evidence supporting pubertal suppression for a whole variety of benefits. But the one thing that is very new is genital surgery in someone that has underwent pubertal suppression. Not so much an issue in someone with assigned female at birth anatomy that undergoes a phalloplasty, because we're creating something with a free tissue transfer or a flap anyway. But a much bigger issue for an individual that's undergoing a penile inversion vaginoplasty. Because we use all of that tissue to basically create the vulva as well as line the internal vaginal canal. And as a specialty, those of us that do a fairly high volume of genital gender affirming surgery, we've maybe done a handful of pubertally suppressed adolescents as a field, and no one's published on it yet. OHSU we're just putting our first series together as we're kind of learning and figuring out what works. But it's really changing things because you don't have enough tissue to line the vaginal canal. So you either have to take a skin graft or take skin from elsewhere or use some artificial product. The way that we're dealing with it is by using a robot, and we're basically performing intra-abdominal components of the surgery. So we're using peritoneum, which is the inner lining of the abdomen, to line most of the vaginal canal. And by doing that, that allows us to use all of the remaining tissue externally to create a vulva and try to make also an aesthetic result.
So that's, first off, he says a lot of adolescents presenting for these types of surgeries. That's kind of an admission right there as well. Thought this wasn't happening. We've talked about this a little bit on this channel though too, with Marcy Bowers. It kind of said this is kind of the same thing as Marcy Bowers said. There's not enough tissue, and And we also know they actually went on in this to also talk about sexual satisfaction and everything there. There was a video I had done off, not one of these live streams, but it was one of the other special videos that I did. It was talking about the person who died after surgery because from the flesh-eating bacteria, because they grafted skin from elsewhere. And anytime you graft skin from anywhere else, it's going to cause issues. I think that there's something really odd with him saying that his practice lies in, genital, or his passion lies in genital surgeries. But all of that was basically like, yeah, we're still trying to figure out, like, literally OHSU is just now writing up the first, like, documents of this, because nobody's ever really documented this type of stuff and how it actually works out. So again, I take you back to the when I started this this portion. How is this not an experiment? I don't get it. And let me see who said that. So Magnificent Devil said this earlier, and I want to talk about this for a second. Doctors tend to be arrogant and are extremely reluctant to ever criticize another doctor. Yeah, you're right. Actually, in my Freedom Fest panel or discussion with Brett Palumbo, somebody kind of asked this question about doctors, and I made a very similar assertion, because I don't want to castigate all doctors. But there is something narcissistic about our medical field, to where if you even question them, Fauci is the science. If you even dare to question them, they don't take it very well. Like, they don't take that very well. So, but they're experimenting on the entire population, I saw the same thing, and Ashley St. Clair is actually a person that who kind of raised this issue a few weeks ago. Actually, again, the night after I was on Timcast, she was on there talking about birth control. And birth control is a major issue that, as I said earlier in this episode, they basically have found that, with birth control, it can cause suicidality in the young female, and then they just throw an SSRI at it. That's what they're doing with gender affirming care. They don't know. They're just, if this causes this, they'll just throw another drug at it. They want to make money. And I think that there's a little bit of, like I said, arrogance, narcissism, elitism happening in a lot of our medical industry right now. We've seen it, and I think COVID, one of the things that COVID did was kind of expose how, they don't actually want you to have, we don't have informed consent. And that's what I said to Ashley's tweet on birth control, is we don't actually have informed consent in this country. I think I froze again, but no. So we don't actually have informed consent in this country. We have a system where they will do what they want. And if you question them, they won't tell you all the harmful benefits of stuff. They will simply tell you what they think you want to know, or some of the stuff that they want you to know, but they won't tell you everything else. When I transitioned on a informed consent model, but I did the most digging you could ever do. I mean, it took me about 4 years to determine that I was ready, that this is what I was going to do, and I was actually going to transition. So I knew about everything that you could know about transition, but the average health decision that people go through, that's not what's going on. And so every young female has been told for years that they should be put on birth control for a number of issues, whether it's cycle issues with their cycle, or issues here and there. And I don't even pretend to know a lot about that, because obviously I've never had to go through that, because I'm a male and never had to go through birth control stuff. But there's issues, and even when a doctor says, admits the study and knows the study, but also admits that they don't think the study is relevant because they think that the birth control will do you better, and if it causes issues, then like I said, they'll just throw you on an SSRI. That's what she basically said. And so I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to this fact, not just in the gender world, but across the board when it comes to the medical industry. You have to do your own research. And again, that's the one thing that COVID kind of taught us to do, is our own research and expose, the narcissism, the elitism that happens within the medical field. But I think you have to go find good doctors. I think that's why the free market is wonderful, and we need to push that out there. And I do want to actually, I'll let you guys know. So I was honored at Freedom Fest. It's kind of crazy. Tell this story too. Me and Olivia Rondeau had gotten off of our bus and we were walking back to the hotel, and I met Dr. Robert Malone in the hallway, and I thanked him for speaking out as he did during COVID. And so that was actually one of the biggest honors that I had during Freedom Fest, because when you have somebody like a good doctor like Dr. Robert Malone speaking truth about what's actually going on, then I think that's hope for the country. And so I'm grateful that I had that opportunity, and it just happened by chance. Like I said, it was really, really awesome. I just said, like I said, I don't take pictures of people because I think that they're amazing, and I also feel like, I want to be like their peer. So I didn't, but I just said, I shook his hand and said, I just want to say thank you for speaking out the way you did and taking those risks. Same with Winston Marshall, my new friend Winston Marshall, formerly from the Mumford & Sons. If you saw my actually on the Post Millennials Twitter page, you see the interview I did with him right after he gave his speech. We don't have enough people speaking out in different areas, and he lost his he's no longer part of the Mumford & Sons, which is a great band, because of this. And again, just really thankful I was able to meet him and meet so many other people there. But yeah, so I probably had more that we could talk about this story as well, but it is yeah, I feel really awkward doing that, so I don't feel it. As Courtney says, it feels almost like worship, and that's not how I feel about anyone. No, you're right, and that's kind of like I said, I like when people come and ask me to take pictures. It feels good when people ask me to take pictures and stuff like that. It means my message is getting across. But at the same time, it's like when I see somebody, they're just normal. They're just normal people, and I don't want to come across as overbearing. I want to respect their space and privacy, but and it's usually when I meet somebody, it's just a quick introduction of who I am. And if we end up having a longer conversation, it's great. With Winston, it was different because I was actually covering the event for the Post Millennial, and his whole speech was about how he got canceled for telling people to go read Andy No's book. And if you know, Andy is our senior editor at the Post Millennial. And so he was very good friends with most of the people in our organization, knew who we were. And so that's the main reason why I was like, hey, do you want to do a quick interview? And he did, and it was great. And I'm grateful for him. I talked to him later on, and just really amazing people out in the industry. So yeah, Robbie says, I do it for the memories. So here's the thing is, I am actually one of these people who I don't even like to take video or take my phone out in a lot of instances. I go to a concert and I enjoy the concert. Like, I see people watching the concert through their phones and stuff like that. And if you're one of these people, I'm not here to shame you, but I'm just kind of like, I'm just here for the memories to actually watch instead of like, looking through my phone. Now I'll take selfies with my friends and stuff real quick, but not like the people that, you know what really grinds my gears is when people videotape like concerts and stuff like that. It's like, why aren't you just like living for the moment? And I think part of it is that people want to take video and people want to take video and they want to, you know, post these things because they want to post it on social media. They want to get the social media clout. And really, I just want to get the memories. And maybe it's because I have a very good it's not quite a photographic memory, but I remember stories. I can remember details of stories very well. But I don't know the last time that I actually took a picture, I took a video of something, and I went down and actually went and watched the video ever again of like the concert. I watch, you know, I don't watch. If I go to a concert, I just want to enjoy the concert. So Chelsea says, I attend a lot of music festivals, and across a 4-day fest, probably take 1 to 3 pictures. Yeah, I mean, take pictures with friends, take pictures with people, but not the event. And I actually have a meme. It's not really a meme, but it shows it. It's like a parade, and everybody in this crowd all have their phones out and they're filming and taking pictures of what's going on. And there's this little old lady standing on the railing just watching. And the caption to the meme is, this woman came from a time before social media where they actually knew how to enjoy an event and they weren't just doing stuff for social media clout. And I thought that was it's actually a really powerful meme or a really powerful picture because it's true. Like, I would rather just have the memories here and not, you know, videotape it for everything else. The only other time that you would videotape stuff like that is when it's your kids, I guess, you know, like you want the memories with your kids, but not for like a concert or experience that really doesn't matter or anything like that. Yeah, like a group shot of me. Like there's like different stuff. I like I said, I am bad because I didn't take a lot of pictures, but I took a lot of pictures with friends this week. And so like if you saw, Christina Buttons just posted some pictures of us, which love getting together with them and love having, you know, love seeing the pictures and stuff like that again. And so it's a difference when you're taking a picture of yourself with people, or if you're just taking a picture again, just to take pictures with somebody that you don't, I mean, I also, like I said, I tend to not take a lot of pictures when it comes to, I guess, celebrities and stuff like that. So I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but I did. So yeah, Christina's had a lot of great pictures from the event. There's a lot of great people at the event. And so yeah, I'm definitely Freedom Fest is great. It's kind of like our Liberty family reunion. It was good. But yeah, so I just want to thank you all for joining joining me this evening. Oh, actually, yeah. Go and read this article because there's a lot of good stuff in here. I wrote it this weekend. It talks about like the sub niches of training, the complications, talking about rectal injury and urinary incompetence and sexual satisfaction and lower. Well, if you have a vaginoplasty, you're not going to be able to have kids. But he also talks about how, you know, a lot of issues come up even 20 years out when people stop like dilating and doing all that stuff and that. So go read the story. If you don't, I mean, go and subscribe to the Post Millennial. You can get these stories without the ads, which is always great. Or go subscribe to the Post Millennial on Twitter. Oh yeah, actually, Christina gave me the button. Christina Buttons gave me a button, the D-Trans awareness button, which I still have. I've been kind of holding on to this whole show. But there's more stuff behind the subscriptions on Twitter. So if you go on to the Post Millennials Twitter page, I'm waiting for Elon. And so if you guys are on Twitter, go spam. And actually, this is being shown on Twitter. Go spam Elon to activate my subscriptions, because I want to track my progress when it comes to my my record-breaking feat. I'm gonna be I would post videos there a couple times a week just to show what I'm doing at the gym. And then on top of other stuff like from the show and other behind the scenes content. So I need subscriptions, okay? Otherwise I have to go to Substack, where I do have video on Substack, but I don't really want, I want it to be more centrally located in Twitter. So do that. Now, what'd you say? So what event have I enjoyed the most? It wasn't just one event, honestly. Last year's Freedom Fest was pretty cool. But it wasn't just one event. It was actually the course of a full week. And this was back in February. So if you remember, back in February, I flew out. I did Timcast on Thursday. My friend came and picked me up, who lives in DC, my friend Laura. And if you don't know Laura, Laura Mays, she is another trans person that works in the military. She works in the military, and she came pick me up. We hung out for most of the weekend. I did Kibbe on Liberty, so Matt Kibbe's show on the Blaze, filmed that. Got to meet the people from the log cabin headquarters up there in DC, and then we did the anti-war rally that Sunday. Was absolutely phenomenal. So it was the Rage Against the War Machine with the Libertarian Party. That's where I met Tulsi Gabbard. That's where I took the one picture. I say I don't take pictures, but that's where I took the picture with me and Ron Paul. I mean, you have to get a picture with Ron Paul when you get the opportunity. And so I got that picture with Ron Paul, met Tulsi Gabbard, met a bunch of people there as well. And oh, Rita, you're in the chat too. Yes, Laura's awesome. But yeah, so you have to. That was honestly like tops when it came to like the events that I've done. Just that full week, it was like it lived up to or exceeded my expectations. That's what I'll say. It was a great week, even though we got shot at while we were in DC. But that's yeah, we went out to a restaurant to get food. And yeah, I posted my speech from that weekend. But we went out, we got food, and somebody squeezed off a round while we were in DC. So I got the full experience. But again, I want to thank everybody for kind of sticking around, especially through the technical difficulties that we had earlier. And I want to make sure go follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.